Some time ago, the most famous pit fighter in all the Underhive was Bull Gord. Bull Gord was the strongest and most massive fighter of all. His girth and weight were so great that a hoist was used to lift him in and out of the fighting pits. In all his fights, he was never defeated, not even when pitted against savage mutants or teams of hardened criminals. Bull Gord's master was a hunchback gilder named Anano. This man had a whole string of pit fighters and made his living by staging spectacular contests between his fighters and any who dared challenge him. Anano grew very rich on the profits reaped from those pits. Despite his enormous wealth earned by Bull Gord and the other pit fighters, Anano remained a twisted, mean-spirited and miserly master. He spent as little as possible on his stable and kept his slaves in the most sorry conditions. Bull Gord was the only slave he made any effort to look after, keeping the giant contented with promises of freedom which he never meant to honour. One day, another slave of Anano, a she-fighter named Ort, was badly hurt in a contest against a captive mutant, some scaled lizard thing from Downhive. Although Ort beat the monster and won Anano his purse, the Gilder refused to send for a surgeon to attend to her wounds. She sickened and after 3 days died, though all swore her injuries were not fatal. Some suspected that Anano would deliberately let his slave die, if not out of meanness, then out of some petty spite, for it was common knowledge that Ort had mocked him for his crooked back and twisted face. This incident is said to have triggered Bull Gord's Revolt, the greatest slave uprising the Underhive has ever known. With the help of an enslaved techno called Huss, the rebels freed hundreds of their brethren. The slaves marched upon the trade posts of Dust Falls, looting and burning the outlaws on their approach. They set fire to the settlement and drove its people into the wastes, where many were attacked and killed by the mutants and outlaws. From the ruins of Dust Falls, the slave army headed towards Dead End Pass, where Bull Gord led a determined attack across the settlement's huge walls. Bull Gord reasoned, though with control of Dead End Pass he would possess a fortress that could resist the strongest forces the Gilders could muster. The people of Dead End Pass put up a stiff fight, but the slaves were just too tough and relentless for them. Bull Gord led his pit fighters into the settlement and captured the trade post. The slaves ran Dead End Pass for many months. Its people became accustomed to their new rulers, and even the Gilders were forced to come and do business there. Now he had control of the fortified settlement, Bull levied tolls onto all traffic between Dead End and the rest of the Hive. Inside Dead End Pass, slavery was abolished. Slave trains passing through were freed, and Gilders were obliged to hire free men to carry their waves in and out of Dead End. There, things may have continued. Bull Gord ran the settlement humanely and wisely. He used the tolls to improve the lot of the settlement's poorer citizens, digging new and better holes, building new water stills, strengthening the tower's defences. But the Gilders would never tolerate the situation for very long. They hated the pit fighter for dividing with the devastation of their property at Dust Falls. And it was treachery that opened the gates of Dead End Pass while the settlement slept. It was no ordinary army that the Gilders launched upon their foe, but a horde of criminals and outlaw gangs recruited from all over the Underhive, mercenaries and cutthroats paid with Gilder money, armed with Gilder guns. The army ran amok in the streets, looting and killing indiscriminately, burning and destroying as it pleased them. Streets of Dead End Pass ran red with blood. Bull Gord's men made a last stand around the trade post, but it was too late for anything but a token resistance. When the killing was over, and the survivors struggled back to their homes, many wept to find their families murdered or maimed. Few people at Dead End Pass were left to thank their liberators. Nor were there many to compare the brutality of the Guilder army with the benign reign of Bull Gord. Those former slaves who still lived were executed without exception. The slave army was destroyed, and a great display of severed heads was made upon the battlements of Dead End Pass. Rows of stakes were erected on all the waste roads, bearing gruesome trophies so all who approached could consider the rebels' fate. Bull Gord was taken prisoner. He was hauled out of the settlement he had once ruled, past the rows of severed heads on a journey that would take him to all the major settlements of the Underhive. For a month, he was paraded round, chained and muzzled, goaded with power mauls and fed upon the slops of the Guild's dogs. Finally, he was taken to the trading post at Dust Falls and executed like a common criminal. His head was stuck up on the gate like a dire warning to all who dared challenge the power of the Merchant Guild. But still, the Guilders could not lay Bull Gord's ghost to rest, nor erase the memory of his life, nor dispel the dream of freedom that he'd awakened. To those who toiled in the yokeless slave trains, to guild slaves and house slaves, and most of all the pit fighters, Bull Gord is still the hero who humbled the Merchant Guild and proved it could be beaten.